Thanks for doing the first video, though.
Yeah, I'm
Really
happy to be
appreciate
the first guest speaker. So thank you for
Yes.
inviting me today, George.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah. I mean, we usually just chat and have a coffee anyway. So I thought, do you know what? Who better to ask to like be the first person than you? So yeah. So what we really want to know is where, you know, your story. Where have you come from? Anything that you found struggling in your life, or anything that you found like has gone really well, or any like life lessons you want to share with anybody, and just kind of like how you've got to where we are today, basically. And then after that, let's talk about your aspirations and maybe your future plans.
So I'll start with my story of coming to the UK as an international student. So that was 2020, it was COVID times, and things were miserable. I mean, classes were online, like 90% were online, and then you had only 10% in person. And I think my first year experience in the UK wasn't like what I expected it to be. Like I thought it's gonna be like what everyone said. It's gonna be fun, you know, you're gonna go out, meet a lot of friends, socialize, learn new things. But then it was like the opposite. But I stayed in the UK, and that was actually really bad. That was miserable because you don't get the chance to again like socialize. I didn't. The reason why I stayed was because like I just wanted to see like how it is, and then fast forward to like a year later, when my first year was ending, and then like things started to like university starts offering like online courses in the summer where you can participate in this and that. You can even do online internships. And then I decided to participate in this one thing called International Business Mentorship.
Yes.
Where I first met you.
Yes, I was about to say that's exactly when we first met. That was so long ago now, though. That feels like a lifetime ago. Oh, thank you.
That was a great experience as well. And then I think during my second year where like things really get started, and I was like in that phase of I don't know. I think every international student will have that culture shock phase, regardless. Like you will always like go through that because you're suddenly in a new country and you're exposed to new things. So I admit that I have been through that phase before. I outgrew it, of course. And fast forward, final year, finished my degree, we graduated together, and then you moved on with your master's. I actually went back to Malaysia in 2023 after my graduation to work for about 5 months. And then I came back here to do my master's. So now I'm done. It's 2025 and I'm ready to move on to the next stage of life. But I would say I really want to talk about my experience being in the UK. As an international student, as someone, as a foreigner, I feel like UK is such a diverse country. Especially Manchester. It's such a city of like life, particularly because there's so many academic institutions here that invites internationals, which makes it so diverse. And I don't think it's only in terms of that, but I think you can find so many like international food places. I mean, you can talk about like Asian, like Western or South America. There's so many places for you to explore with your friends, and there's always things to do. And I think I really I fell in love with Manchester after I experienced all of those things. And I think I also told you that I want to settle down here if I can.
Yeah, 100%. It's really like a livable city, isn't it? I mean, you've been to London quite a few times. And you know, like what you're saying is like Manchester is just more livable. It's more homely, would you say?
Like in the city, maybe it's good for young people like us, and then maybe if you go outside of Greater Manchester, like Didsbury, Altrincham, that's more for like family, you know. And it's still nice, like it's still peaceful, you know. Maybe it's affordable as well, rather than you go down south in London, like in I don't know, North London, South London. It's much more livable, and that's also what I heard. A lot of people, a lot of British people say like. Why their families decide to like move here instead of somewhere near south of England.
Yes,
because it's much cheaper here in the northwest. And I think throughout my life in the UK, not only that I experienced things in the university, in the institution, like academically, I participated in, of course, extracurricular activities. One of them being the mentorship, and then the others are so many things like societies and all this. But I also experienced things outside of university as well. So I tried to do a part-time job. So I was working in Selfridges. Now I'm working in Suji, which is a Japanese cafe. And then I think all the experience that I gained really opened my eyes that it's so important for you to like go out there and try things and get out of your comfort zone, because when you are in that position, and for me, like I'll tell the story in my perspective, because when I have experienced all of this together with people who are the same as me, we always talk about the same topic with the internationals. It's like we've experienced this thing outside of our country, and then when we come back, we start to see things very differently. Like we start to see like, oh, why some people act like this, why some people react like this. So to give you an example, let's say before I came here, I wasn't really an open-minded person.
Yeah.
Because I've always stuck in one place, and I think after all of this, I became more open-minded. I became more to accepting things and not to like deny opinions because it was because of my ego.
Yeah.
So you gotta learn to, like, I think generally as well, like you can't just like reject it the first time. You gotta learn to understand it first and put that ego down and accept it, and understand that people are different as well, and they have their own opinions, they have their own perspectives.
Yes.
And like sometimes if you don't, like, you always see yourself as the good person and the other as the bad people. When it's not really the case.
When really everybody's like a shade of grey, you know.
Yeah.
You know, there's some, like, maybe the same person's got really good aspects, but then at the same time, you know, maybe they've got some less desirable traits or less, you know, there's things about them where you could be a little less enthusiastic about, you know. But I think since I've known you, since you've come here, you've definitely changed in a positive way. You seem more outgoing, and you definitely seem more comfortable expressing your opinions in a way that doesn't sound egotistical. Not saying you were egotistical when I met you, because I didn't think that, but I kind of understand your point from the perspective of being your friend and listening to kind of how your mindset's developed over, you know, over the last 4 or 5 years. But one key point, I know we were talking about this earlier when we were getting lunch, about like job prospects in the UK. Like, I know when we were first like talking and when we first became friends, you wanted to stay here, and you just said you want to stay here and get a job, but like your ego is kind of, I want to say like rescinded, but kind of like rescinded into the fact that, okay, maybe I can't just do what I want when I want to do it. I've got to, you know, like you're saying, put the effort in and get out of your comfort zone, which you have done. But even then, life sometimes doesn't work out the way you planned it to go. But what I think's admirable about yourself as well is that you're adapting to that. And, you know, the way you described it is really interesting, I think. Because a lot of people are probably in your situation, but they don't realise it. But I think you've got the maturity to realise it and actually take a step back and sort of analyse your situation. Which is really good.
To touch a bit on that point as well, it's like where I wanted to stay here because I think I'm happier here. I think it promises a better life, but now I think that maybe it's not the case for me. Maybe because I was denying of going back home to Malaysia because I didn't want it, but I never actually like looked at, what could I have done in Malaysia if I actually went back. Now I already started seeing things. I can actually be more established if I go to another place rather than staying here. Maybe for some people, they're lucky to get a job, maybe like international. I've seen it. I've seen some of my Malaysian friends who secured a graduate role for 2 or 3 years, and then, that's fine, that's lucky you. But I believe that majority of us wouldn't even get that chance. So we gotta think of options. We can't just stay here. And we have to, again, get out of the comfort zone.
Definitely. So what's one of the biggest life lessons you've learned then? I know that you said get out of your comfort zone, and that's like something you've learned. But before you came to the UK, like what's a situation where you've been in what's made you think, okay, that was really good, or a situation where you think, okay, I wish even nobody experiences that, or you never want to experience that again?
Let me try to break down this into 3. I think. Let me try to 3 lessons. I think number 1, which sounds pretty cliche, is to never judge a book by its cover. because it's in the UK where I first like discovered like you really shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Like you really have to get to know that person. What does he do? You can't just assume that he's not good at doing this. He's like this, is like that. Just by even when you meet him one time or first time, you don't really know anything about that person yet, because he wouldn't like. No one's going to like tell every single thing about their life first time you meet them. So it's really a process of you getting to know that person until you, oh, okay, so this person is actually, you know, good. This person is actually like doing nice things.
Yeah, you've got to keep chipping away at the
and
armor,
I think
right?
for you yourself, like the lesson on this first part is like you also have to put effort, like time as well, to open yourself up to get to know people. And then lesson number 2 that I learned in the UK is like I wished I took more risk.
Okay.
I wished I saved up more. I wished I more organized. So
we all wish we were more organized.
So, but I don't think there's a way for you to escape that, because when you're young, you just want to have fun.
Yes.
And I believe that everyone has a different like clock when they realize that, oh no, I have to like put my life together now.
Yeah.
But I guess like there's no way that you could like realize that, because even as when we were kids, we love to play, we love to buy toys and video games. Of course, our parents would tell like, oh, you shouldn't be wasting your time on that. But like, how will we know? Because we're kids. Yeah. And then when we grow a bit older, and then they'll realize, oh, that probably that's a waste of time, that's a waste of money. So it's the same situation when you're in 20s. Spend money going out, and that's like a lesson that like I've learned, like, oh, and I'm glad. And there are people who realize earlier than me. There might be people who will realize like maybe when they're 30 and then they regret it. So I think that's a lesson that I want to tell everyone. So like make yourself realize, like maybe think of the things that you could have done earlier, like that, you know, could result better in your life. Yeah.
I think just to tag on to that, one of the things that I've learned, especially since being at university, is think about the long-term impact of actions and consequences, for sure. Okay, if I buy this thing now, say like I'm buying a new cardigan, for instance, I'm going to get short-term satisfaction out of it, or am I going to get long-term satisfaction out of it? Okay, if it's something cheap, then maybe I've just got it for the short term and then I don't have it long time. Yeah. You know, maybe that's a waste of money or a waste of time if it's like an experience instead of a piece of clothing. But if you're investing in yourself, like like I'm pretty sure that's kind of like what you're hinting at. Investing your time in things that really matter. Yeah. Then you're taking a really long-term view at stuff, and that then, you know, sets a precedent for the rest of your life going forward. Especially like you're saying, like now we're in our 20s. I'm in my mid-20s, going to be, you know, soon in my late 20s. Yeah. I think looking back in hindsight, what you're saying is, you know, pretty spot on about the fact that you waste a lot of time doing stuff to either impress people that you don't really care about, or you know, you're meeting people who you really shouldn't be meeting. But I think that's just part of growing up, though, and I think you only realize that when you get to like our age, because you don't have that like backwards looking mindset. And I think it links back to what you were saying at the start of like the video and at the start of the conversation of like reining in your ego. And you're not invincible, and you are actually, you know, you've got to start planning for stuff, and you've got to sort of be adaptable. I think adaptable is like the best, you know, the best word to describe it. But yeah, thanks for that. I mean, not only have I just kind of, you know, had a bit of a rethink in my brain, but I think people who are going to watch this will probably also have a bit of a step back moment and a bit of a reflection to think, okay, am I in this? Maybe they're in a similar situation to you, where maybe some people are even looking at coming to the UK. Now this maybe could be a deciding factor on if they want to come or not, or what kind of things they want to operate and do whilst they're in the UK, or even if they've, you know, maybe they've decided that the UK is not for them. But there's nothing wrong with that, though, is there? That's another thing that I've taken away from what you're saying, is even if you make a decision and you go for it and it doesn't work out the way you planned, that doesn't mean that it's not good.
And like on top of that as well, like coming to the UK, if anyone's thinking of coming to the UK, there's a bigger picture onto that. Like this involves like your regulations in the UK. Like you got to think of that long term as well. Like, do you want to come here just to study, or do you want to come here to work or to settle down? But then it's also important for you to hear from the perspectives of individuals like me.
Definitely, because you've lived here, you've breathed it. You've got the postcard, so to speak, got the T-shirt. So I think from like a viewer's perspective of this conversation, as a third party, it's really insightful into life as like an international student in the UK, and somebody who wanted to work in the UK. Unfortunately, that's not come true yet. Maybe it will in the future. But yeah, I think a lot of people could, just do with what you're saying with the advice, especially the ego. I think that was like a major point I've never even really thought of before. Because I know, like, I've met some people, like, whilst I've been friends with you, and I'm no longer friends with them. And I think that's maybe because they let their ego run wild. And, if you're trying to have a normal conversation with some people, they don't take it well. But that's by the by.
I'll get to my last point, the last lesson.
Carry on.
Is to always be yourself. Just always be yourself. Stick to the value that you have, because you don't want to come here and or even anyone in the world and just be influenced by every single new thing. That like you have to have a value in yourself that you stick to. And also this comes to a point where like people come from different backgrounds. Everyone have different religion, different races. So these people like stick to the value no matter where they are. And I like the fact that people teach, like, for example, like me as a Muslim, people never actually thought that there's Muslim people in Asia. Like because people think of Asia like are there Muslims in China? Are there Muslims in Philippines? Are there Muslims in like Thailand? Like how Singapore? Like how are you Muslim? Like because people thought that Muslims only come from the Middle East. That's the stereotype. But no, like I mean, Malaysia is a Muslim country, so that's when I start like sharing things about not just my culture, like the Malay culture, but also like my religion as well. So it's really good to share things, and then people who are from their background, they share things to me as well. You don't want to be like in a culture shock state where you forget where you come from. We have this phrase in Malay, which translates to like peanut that forgets its skin.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Like you come to a new place and then you forget everything about your background. So I don't think you should be like that. You have to stick to your value no matter where you go, and teach and spread that like value to people as well as sharing things, because because I think the final thing is that it's important for everyone to know that regardless of how different we are, we can still understand each other. And in the end, everyone is the same.
I was just going to say, I mean, we're all people, and we're all living together, and we've got to learn to mingle with different people who have different value systems to yourself. But just kind of rolling off that conversation, if you could say what are your 2 core values that are like unnegotiable, this is like what you'd stick to, what would you say those 2 are?
2 values that I really stick to.
Yeah, because I think I'm going to ask, like, obviously this is the first time we've done this, but I think in each video and each person that I'm going to get on this series, I'm going to ask them what the 2 core values that they represent them or they stick to in day-to-day life. Because I think it's going to be interesting to see what these values are for different people, especially coming from different backgrounds. So
I would say the first one is trust. Because I want to be able to get a good relationship with everyone that I meet. And like it's not just in terms of like relationship, like a romantic relationship, but also with your friends, with your potential employer, with just anyone. Like trust is really important because it affects long term as well. If you're gonna do business, if you're gonna do this, if you're gonna do that, trust is really important. And for you to get trust, you really have to, back to my point, get to know that person. And in the end, we're all the same. Like you have to be kind to people. And I think value number 2 is, I think, your relationship with someone. Because for me, when I lost contact with someone, like I say, as a friend, I've met so many friends for the first like 5 years, almost 5 years that I'm living here. I will always find like ways to like catch up with them, like even just to say like, how are you on text. That's just, it's just do that, like I don't think no one have that motivation to do that, because it's hard, because they think that, what's the point of me doing that? And they don't think of like long term, because you never know who are going to ask help to.
Exactly.
So I think relationship is really important, and it could just be as simple as asking like, how are you?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the points of this like video series I'm making, is just to get authenticity and just be a human, rather than all this like fakeness that's going around online. You know, if you want to reach out to somebody, just reach out. If you get ignored, you get ignored. But as long as it's like on your conscience that you've reached out, you know, that's how I think about that too. You know, sometimes like I won't reach out to somebody for like a long time because of, you know, stuff that's happened in my life, or maybe stuff's happened in their life. But I think, you know, you've got a really good friendship with somebody when you can contact them after, you know, maybe it's 1 week, 2 weeks, 2 years, 10 years. And you can still have a good conversation with them, and they know that you're still thinking about them. I think that's the main thing.
Because I think I took inspiration from, I don't know, I think this is such a dad thing. Like, how can they know so many people? Like, how can they have so many contacts in their phones? Like,
that's true. I think like these days, because everything's so interconnected with like globalization, etc., it's easier for us to forget about the value of the human connection.
True. That's so true.
And I think that's a great point to leave the video on. In today's world, we forget about the value of we forget about the value of human connection in a globalized world, where everybody seems to communicate online or via videos or via text messages or FaceTimes or whatever. So just get out there, message your friends.
And sit down and talk with people.
And even people that you don't know. If you go to a cafe next time, don't put your earphones in. You know, talk to the people around you.
Lower down the ego too.
Exactly. It goes back to the ego again. Lower your ego. Just engage with people, because you never know who you're going to meet, and you never know who's going to become your friends. Like I think you messaged me first and just reached out and was like, hey, we're in the same class, and we met on the course, you know, then we became friends from there. But that's all it takes, because you never know who you're going to meet. If Mo hadn't have done that 5 years ago, we wouldn't have been friends. So I think that's a really good point to leave the video. And thanks for being the guinea pig for this, Mo. And
it's so
maybe
nice
we'll
to
see
be
you
here.
again if people
I
watch
love
this.
I love to come again and talk about the next stage. Maybe something happens to me next time, and I'm happy to be sharing that as well. But love to talk with you. Always loving to talk with you, George. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you very much. Right, I'll see you in a bit. And I'll see you in a bit.